guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jasmine and welcome to today's little chit chat Q&A. I did ask you guys a while back on my Instagram stories to submit any questions that you had for me. I did record a part 1 to this a few weeks ago, and in that Q&A I focused more on self-love, friendships, relationships, since it was more around Valentine's Day. So if you haven't watched that video, I will link it like up here somewhere or down below. But in today's chit chat Q&A, I thought I would answer the rest of the questions that were submitted, and these are more like personal questions for me, get to know me a little bit better, which for as long as I've been doing content, I've realized that I've never actually done like a get to know me style video. So I figure it is about that time, and I'm really excited to get into this. So you guys asked some really good questions. So the first question somebody asked me is, what is your big 3? I am a Taurus sun, Cancer moon, and Cancer rising. Take that how you will, but I personally love my big 3 combination. If I could describe to anyone what it's like to have a Taurus sun, Cancer moon, Cancer rising, just think like big sister energy. I don't know, like I just feel like I'm a chill person. I like to keep it cute. I like to keep it simple. I don't do the most. I'm just like in my own world doing my own thing, and unless someone disturbs my peace, I'm not really like in the mix like that. But the next question somebody asked, hi, I'm new here. Do you have any siblings by chance? And yes, I do actually. If you can't already tell, I am the oldest. I'm the oldest daughter, and I have one brother, which funny enough, a lot of people don't know I have a brother because I rarely talk about him, but I do have a brother. We are the opposite signs. I'm a Taurus and he's a Scorpio. So yes, I do have a brother who is, I want to say he's either 4 or 5 years younger than me. But yeah, I have a younger brother, and then I have 2 younger sisters who are 16 and 17 years younger than me. So for most of my childhood, it was just my brother and I growing up. And then when I was in high school, my parents decided to have 2 kids back to back. And so I very much became like the second parent. Like I feel most eldest daughters kind of become like, you become the second parent, the caretaker, the one your younger siblings go to and rely on. And I definitely took on that role a little bit with my brother, but more so when my sisters were born, because I was so much older. Like I was taking care of them a lot more. And also on a side note, when it comes to them, I will literally ride for them. Like if you guys only knew some of the stuff that I have gotten into just in the name of like protecting my siblings, or like, being their ride or die. Like I have gotten into some things just being a protective older sister. But anywho, somebody asked, are you more of an introvert or extrovert, or somewhere in between? To be honest, I used to think that I was an introvert, and I will say I have like more introverted tendencies, but as I've gotten older, I realized that my energy is dependent on who I'm around. If I am around someone who I don't really feel comfortable around, or who I don't really know and I don't really feel safe around, you will get a certain version of me. And that version is usually someone who's reserved, who's quiet, who doesn't say much, who kind of doesn't really engage, who is like, again, in her own little world. But if I am around people that I feel comfortable with, and this could be like a stranger that I just met and I just instantly feel a connection with, or it could be like friends and family, you will get a completely different version of me. You will get someone who is funny and witty and talkative and opinionated. And so it just really depends on who I'm around and the energy they give off. I'm very, very big on energy. And I will say, like, when I first meet people, I definitely tend to be more observant and kind of like to myself, because I'm gauging, is this a person I feel safe and comfortable with? Is this a person I feel like I can be myself with, or do I have to be a little bit more guarded? So I don't know if that would be considered introverted per se, because it just depends. I think that's just more me protecting myself. So to answer your question, I don't really know what I am. The next question somebody asked is, how would you describe your personality in 3 words? I would definitely say intuitive. As I was just saying, like I feel very intuitive when it comes to people's energy, people's intentions. When something doesn't feel right for me, whether it's an opportunity, a relationship, I'm very in tune with how I feel. But I would say I'm a very like comforting person. For a lot of people in my life, I am the person that they come to for advice and for help and support. Like, love to be that person for the people in my life. But one thing about that is I've had to learn how to have boundaries with myself. I love being that person for other people because I personally never had that growing up. I didn't have an older sister to ask advice from. I didn't really have anyone to guide me through life or like show me the way, or like anyone who was emotionally available for me. And to be able to be that person for others, really like healing. So I would definitely say intuitive, nurturing / comforting. And then I think another word that describes my personality is very driven. If I have an idea to do something, even if I have no idea like how to do it, where to begin, I will just start. I've been like that most of my life. I've always been a very determined person. I'm not someone who just sits around and thinks about things all day without actually doing something about it. Like, if I talk about something, that's because I'm doing something about it too, and I'm never one to just talk before I actually do something about what I'm saying, if that makes sense. So you guys are asking some really good questions, but somebody else asked, what do you think is something people might misunderstand about you? I feel like I am actually a very misunderstood person, to be honest, because again, I'm a quieter person. When you're more quiet into yourself, you kind of give people open space to like fill in the blanks because you're not really giving them much to judge you on. And so I feel like as someone who's naturally more like to herself and just more calm and chill and collected, and I don't really like show a lot of myself right away, I think when people are first meeting me, I might kind of give off the impression that I'm stuck up, that I'm mean, that I'm not friendly. There have been times when I've like met people and then later we become friends and they tell me like, oh, when I first met you, I thought you were stuck up, and that couldn't be further from the truth. At least I would like to think. I think I'm a very friendly person. I think I'm a very kind person. Like, if we're in a group setting, I want to make sure everyone around me feels comfortable, because I personally know what it's like to feel not included in like a group setting, or to feel like you're kind of on the outskirts, or like you're not really involved or included with like everyone else, and that is not a nice feeling to have. So whenever I am in a group setting, I try to like engage with everyone and make sure that everyone is feeling included in the conversation or whatever it is that we're doing. So I would like to think that I'm a very kind and nice and genuine person, but I do think that that doesn't always come across when people are first meeting me. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, because that is something that I've gotten many times in my life. It is what it is. Like, I can do my best to smile more, be more friendly. At the end of the day, people are gonna think what they want about you. And what I've come to realize is more important is not what people think of you, but what you know is to be true about yourself. And what I know to be true about myself is I am a kind, genuine, good-hearted person. I always have been, and I feel like I always will be. But yeah. Okay, so now let's get into more of like the deeper questions about me. That was more like getting to know like my personality, a little bit about me. But somebody asked, curious to know if you went to college, how has it helped with your career if you went, or how have you managed and learned to thrive without a degree? And I actually don't think I've talked much about like my background. I actually went to community college like right after high school. I went a year and a half, 2 years, I believe. But I was like at a point where I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I went to community college in, I want to say 2013, 2014-ish. And during that time, like social media wasn't what it is today. Like obviously now there are degrees that are catered specifically to social media marketing, social media jobs. Like it is an actual industry now, but I feel like even just a few years ago, it wasn't as big as it is today. So during that time, I felt like the options that I had available to me were not options that felt right for me. And I've talked about this before, like on my podcast, but I have always felt the traditional 9-to-5 route was never for me. And that's no shade to the traditional 9-to-5 route. I think for some people it works, it makes them happy, they love the stability, and I completely understand like why some people enjoy that route. But for me, it never was something that I truly like aligned with or felt right. To answer your question, I did go to community college for like a year and a half, 2 years for, I think I was going for communications, and then I ended up dropping out because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what I want to do. I can always go back if I want to. So I ended up dropping out and I never went back actually. And it's never been something that I've ever wanted to do. I do think having an education is important and education is such a privilege, but that just wasn't my route and I don't regret it at all. I think dropping out was the right decision for me. I do think like I could have continued on with my education and gotten, you know, a degree. You know, it wouldn't have hurt, of course, but I don't think because of the route that I've chosen to take in my career, it would have made much of a difference. So for me, I don't feel like it was detrimental. As far as like how I've been able to thrive without a degree, honestly, it's been my drive. Like I mentioned earlier, if I could describe my personality in 3 words, one of them would be I am a very driven person, and I have had many jobs throughout my 20s and in many different industries. And the way that I've gotten where I am today is just through pure willingness to like do the work, do whatever I needed to do to get to the next level, and being humble enough to start from the quote-unquote bottom. I've never felt like I was above any job or that I was too good for anything. With my current job, for example, you guys know I work for a wellness brand, and if I'm being honest, I knew when I got hired for this job, I knew that I was overqualified for this job. The responsibilities of this job was something that I could do with my eyes closed. So I knew going into this job, I am overqualified for this. Like I've done this before, but I never felt like I was too good for it because I knew that this job was going to open more doors for me and be kind of like the way in the industry that I want to be in. And it was. After a few months of working as the community manager, I ended up being promoted to being the influencer and partnership manager for the brand. So I ended up getting a promotion. My responsibilities have increased, my salary has increased, and it's opened so many doors for me and travel, work opportunities. I'm meeting so many people within the influencer wellness industry. And you always have to have that mindset when you are going through life. Like I think it's important to always have a sense of humbleness about you and humility and never feel like you're too good for something, but because you never know what a certain opportunity or a certain person can do for you. Another thing that I feel like has helped me thrive in my career is just having the audacity to go after what I want. Like I said, when I get an idea to do something, I just do it and I figure it out. I got the idea to start a podcast. Did I know how to start a podcast? Absolutely not. Did I know anyone around me who had a podcast who I can use as a resource? Absolutely not. But I just started Googling. I started figuring it out. I made mistakes along the way. And now here we are with a very successful podcast. So I think my drive, my wit, my determination, my I'm gonna figure it out as I go mindset is what's really helped me to be successful in my career. Along those lines, somebody asked me, what is my mindset on starting a podcast or creating content? And I'm not gonna sit here and like give you tangible advice on like how to start a podcast or how to start creating content. There are a ton of resources to figure that out. You can Google it, you can YouTube it, TikTok it. So I'm not gonna say that, but what I will say is if you are thinking of starting a podcast, creating content, or anything for that sort, whether it's like a business or going to school to become a nurse, like do it for the right reason. If you are doing something just for the money, just for the perks, just for the benefits, I promise you, you are going to have a very difficult time. You are going to have to put in the work for a long time before you start seeing results. So that would be like my best advice to you. Like get clear on what is your why behind. But anyways, the next question somebody asked is Phoenix a city you can see yourself living long term? Where else would you like to live? This is actually something that I've been wanting to talk about. So for those of you who don't know, I am born and raised in California. I've lived there my entire life up until I moved almost 4 years ago. And to keep it a buck, to be completely honest with you guys, I am ready to get up out of here. I am ready to get up out of here. That's no shade to Arizona. I know I have some Arizona people who watch me, so please do not take this as like shade or anything, but I am ready to go. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. It's not because I hated here. When I moved here, I always knew, one, that it was going to be temporary. I never moved here thinking this is going to be my forever place. I just wanted to experience living somewhere else, living away from family, living away from everything that I was familiar with. I had felt like I had outgrown the environment that I was in. I was not happy where I was living. I just felt like there was more to life than my hometown and like the surrounding area that I grew up in, and I just wanted to experience something differently. Moving here was definitely the right decision, and since I've moved here, I have grown so much. Like, I am a completely different person than who I was before I moved. And I always say, if you knew me before I moved and we haven't spoken or seen each other since, I am so sorry, but you do not know me at all. I don't even know that version of me. Being away from everyone that you know, from everything that you're familiar with, is such a journey in itself. Because I didn't have any distractions, I wasn't surrounded by people that I knew. All I had was myself, and when you spend that much time with yourself, that is when you do some like real deep healing inner work. You really get to know yourself. Like, you get real deep with yourself. At least I did. And so the last few years that I've been living here, I have done so much healing, so much growing. I am so much more confident. My career has thrived ever since I moved and I've been here. My world opened up when I moved. So I do feel like Arizona served its purpose. It served me well. It did what it needed to do. And now I'm kind of at a point where I'm kind of feeling that same feeling that I felt the last few years living where I grew up. This itch to move and to go somewhere new, and like this feeling of like, okay, there's more for me to experience in life than what is available here to me. I do think that it does feel a little bit underdeveloped. It is starting to develop more even in the last 4 years that I've been here. I have seen so many like new buildings and businesses, and I've seen it grow, but I do think it's not where I need it to be. That's one of the reasons why I definitely want to move. The second reason why I want to move is the weather. For like 6 months out of the year, it's extremely hot, which of course is a given, like everybody knows that. But I did not anticipate for my mental health to struggle as much as it has during the hot summer months. Never in my life ever experienced seasonal depression the way that I do or have ever since I moved here. Back in California, I did not experience seasonal depression ever, not during the winter time, not during the summertime. Like, that was not a thing for me. That was not something that I experienced. But when I moved here, every summer I went into a deep depression because it was so hot. I think I just have gotten to a point where I cannot live like that anymore. And the third reason why I really don't see myself staying here is because of lack of community. I don't want to get too into it because my camera's about to die, but what I will say is that there definitely is community here. I just don't think it's my community. Not to say there aren't good people here. I have met some really great people here. It's just not where I feel like, okay, this is where I want to settle down or continue building my life. This will be my last year here. By March of next year, we will be living somewhere else. I don't know where exactly. The question was like, where else would you like to live if not in Phoenix? So much can change in a year, so it's hard to say exactly. My heart is telling me to go back to California, but if I were to go back to California, it wouldn't be like where I grew up. I don't ever see myself living back there again. For some context, like where I grew up is in the Central Valley, so in that area there really isn't a lot in terms of like what I want to do with my life and like my career passions and my goals. There really isn't much of that in that area. But if I were to move back to California, it would 100% be SoCal. Again, I don't know which area because even SoCal is so big. Like, there's the LA area, there's Orange County, there's San Diego, like there's so many different areas. It really depends on like where I am in my life a year from now, what I want out of life. You guys have to give me some ideas because that is something that I struggle with. Like, if not California, like where would I live? Somebody else asked, can you share more about choosing to be child-free, not having kids, and your thoughts about that? In a few vlogs ago, I mentioned how I am like 99.9% certain I don't want kids. It's always been something that I've been uncertain about. I won't say that I'm necessarily child-free, because it's like this whole thing within the child-free community that when you call yourself child-free, that means you are 100% certain without a doubt that you do not want kids ever in your life. And then there's a difference between being child-free and then childless by choice. So I would say I'm more under the childless by choice category, because while I am 99.9% certain I do not want kids of my own, there is still that 1% of me that's like, but maybe one day I'll change my mind. But in order for me to change my mind, there are a lot of things that have to take place in my life before I can change my mind. I heard someone say this recently and it really stuck with me, and they said, I know for certain I would be a damn good mom, but I would not be a happy mom. And I could not agree more with that. I know I would be a good mom. I would take care of my child. I would love on my child. I would pour it into my child. I would be the best mom you could be, but I don't know for certain if I would be a happy mom. And for me right now, my priority is myself. It's my happiness, it's my freedom, it's creating a life that I love, making my dreams happen, it's doing the things that I want to do. And I'm so driven and passionate about that, because growing up I didn't have that privilege, I didn't have that freedom, because I was parentified at a very young age. And I feel like that definitely shapes you as an adult, and it influences some of the decisions that you make in life and what you want out of life. And maybe some of you can relate to that if you were also parentified as a child. Like now you don't want kids of your own because you're like, I did my part, I don't want to do it anymore. Truth is, when you become a parent, especially as mothers, because let's be real, you could have the most amazing partner, but at the end of the day, a mother is sacrificing more of herself and her life when she has children. And I am just at a place in my life where I don't want to put myself last in my own life. I did that most of my life without a choice, and now that I have a choice, I don't want to put myself last. I don't want to neglect myself. I don't want to think about myself last. I want to do everything that I want to do and when I want to do it, and I want to be happy for me and not have any responsibilities other than myself. Some might call that selfish. Some people might say like, oh, you will never know love until you have your own child, or you will never be fulfilled, whatever. Maybe that's true for you, but that's not my truth. And I feel perfectly happy with my life without children. I feel fulfilled as it is. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't get baby fever. Like that's another thing. Like I don't feel negativity, but I also don't feel like excitement or joy. Like obviously if someone tells me they're pregnant, I'm going to be happy for them, but I don't feel like I wish that was me, or I feel like I'm missing out. Like I genuinely don't feel that. So I'm gonna trust how I feel, like, because at the end of the day, I know myself best. And it's taken me a long time to admit that, because it just felt scary to say it. I was afraid of judgment from other people. I was afraid to hear other people's opinions. And I was also afraid to admit it to myself, because what if I'm wrong? What if I change my mind? And I realized that life is about growing and evolving, and you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to say one thing and then change your mind the next day, like whether it's a career or a relationship or having kids, not having kids, you are allowed to change your mind. So right now I'm saying I don't want kids. I don't think about having kids, but who knows, maybe in a few years that will change. But right now I can say I highly doubt that. Okay, the last question that I'm going to end off with, somebody asked, how do you feel about turning 30 soon? Y'all, I cannot believe that I will be turning 30 in like a month and a half. My birthday is on May 4th. I don't even know where my 20s went. When they say your 20s come and go, they are not lying. They feel like they took forever, but then at the same time, it feels like I was just turning 20 and now I'm here at 29. And it's so insane. How I feel about turning 30, there's definitely been a lot of mixed emotions and feelings. I think, especially like in the last few months, a lot of the growing pains that I had throughout my 20s, I have been feeling all of that again recently, kind of like final boss moments. I feel like I've been having a lot of moments of testing how far I've come, how much I've actually grown, like there's been situations in my life come up where it's like testing me to see how much I've actually grown. Like, okay, have you really healed from this? Have you really learned your lesson when it comes to this? And it's been really challenging to just be tested back to back to back. I definitely want to make a separate sit down video or a podcast episode about all of my lessons from my 20s, because I have learned so much. So I'm not going to get too into it right now, but I will say there's definitely been a lot of like mixed emotions of just like time going by so quickly. Not only are you getting older, but your parents are getting older, your siblings. It really makes you reflect and think about your life when you get older, especially reaching such a pivotal age, like from your 20s to your 30s. But at the same time, I am also so excited to enter my 30s. I am genuinely so excited for it, because I feel like I have spent my 20s learning and growing, making mistakes, picking myself back up, figuring out who I am, unpacking, like literally my 20s were messy. They were messy because I was figuring myself out. I was doing the inner work, I was healing, and I feel like it's all led me to where I am right now. And I'm very grateful for where I am right now. I am happy with who I am as a person, who I've become, my mindset. I feel more sure of myself, of what I want out of life, who I want to surround myself with, my boundaries. I'm not afraid to put myself first. I'm no longer a people pleaser. There's nothing anyone can say or do that would ever make me doubt who I am as a person and what I love about myself. And that was something that I struggled with deeply in my 20s. Like, someone could say like, you're a bad person out of nowhere for no reason at all, and I would believe them. I would question myself and I would really believe those words. Whereas now someone could literally say the most heinous thing to me and I would be like, okay, sure, that if that's what you think. But I wouldn't let it bother me as much, because I know who I am at my core. I know the type of person I am. I know my values. I know what I stand for. I know myself. There isn't anything anyone could say that would ever make me doubt who I am as a person. Nothing. Like, I know who I am. I'm excited to see all of the hard work that I put into myself and my life in my 20s kind of come into fruition in my 30s. I'm excited for that. But again, I definitely want to make a more in-depth sit-down video podcast episode where I share like more about lessons and my struggles. With that being said, I think I'm gonna end this video here. I really hope that you enjoyed this little chit chat, get to know me more. I hope it gave you a little bit more insight as to who I am as a person. I will be out of town for the next like week and a half-ish. By the time this video is up, I am already out of town, so there won't be a new vlog this coming Sunday. But once we are back out of town, we will be getting back into posting regularly. So definitely leave me down in the comments what videos you would like to see from me. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.